Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge etc. Jai Hind, your daily boost, Tithi Nakshatra and important anniversaries, a spiritual and historical insight of 8th January 2025, Wednesday, Bengal date 23 পৌষ 1431. As per Benimatofsil Ponjika, today's Tithi is Shukla Navami and up to 1402 hours and after that Shukla Dashami. Today's Nakshatra is Ashwini Nakshatra and up to 1636 hours and after that Bharani Nakshatra. Today is 8th day of the year. There are then 357 days left in 2025. Today is second Wednesday of 2025. Today is World Typing Day. World Typing Day is celebrated annually on January 8th. It is a day to recognize the importance of typing skills in our increasingly digital world. Typing has become an essential skill for communication, work and education. This day aims to promote efficient typing practices and celebrates how this skill contributes to productivity and global connectivity. Today is Earth's Rotations Day. Earth's Rotation Day is celebrated on January 8th every year to commemorate the discovery that the Earth rotates on its axis. The day is a tribute to French physicist Leon Foucault, who proved this discovery in 1851. Foucault demonstrated the Earth's rotation by suspending a lead-filled brass sphere, known as the Foucault pendulum. From the top of the Pantheon in Paris, he showed that the plane of the pendulum's swing rotated relative to the Earth's rotation. You can see the Foucault pendulum in science museums around the world. The Earth's rotation is a fundamental movement that creates the day-to-night cycle and influences climate patterns. Earth's axis is tilted at about 23.5 degrees relative to its orbital plane around the Sun. The Earth rotates counterclockwise if viewed from above the North Pole. Scientists use astronomical observations, satellites, and geological records to study the Earth's rotation. They add or remove a leap second to keep clocks in line with the Earth's time because of irregularities in the Earth's rotation. Today is African National Congress Foundation Day. The African National Congress (ANC) is a political party in South Africa. It originated as a liberation movement known for its opposition to apartheid and it governed the country since 1994, when the first post-apartheid election resulted in Nelson Mandela being elected as President of South Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa, the incumbent national president, has served as president of the ANC since 18 December 2017. Founded on 8 January 1912 in Bloemfontein as the South African Native National Congress, the organization was formed to advocate for the rights of black South Africans. When the National Party government came to power in 1948, the ANC's central purpose became to oppose the new government's policy of institutionalized apartheid. To this end, its methods and means of organization shifted. Its adoption of the techniques of mass politics and the swelling of its membership culminated in the defiance campaign of civil disobedience in 1952-53. The ANC was banned by the South African government between April 1960, shortly after the Sharpeville massacre, and February 1990. During this period, despite periodic attempts to revive its domestic political underground, the ANC was forced into exile by increasing state repression, which saw many of its leaders imprisoned on Robben Island. Headquartered in Lusaka, Zambia, the exiled ANC dedicated much of its attention to a campaign of sabotage and guerrilla warfare against the apartheid state, carried out under its military wing, Umukhonto, which was founded in 1961 in partnership with the South African Communist Party's SACP. The ANC was condemned as a terrorist organization by the governments of South Africa, the United States, and the United Kingdom. However, it positioned itself as a key player in the negotiations to end apartheid, which began in earnest after the ban was repealed in 1990. For much of that time, the ANC leadership along with many of its most active members operated from abroad. After the Soweto uprising of 1976, the ANC remained committed to achieving its objectives through armed struggle. Led by its military wing, Umkhonto we siege, these circumstances significantly shaped the ANC during its years in exile. In the post-apartheid era, the ANC continues to identify itself foremost as a liberation movement, although it is also a registered political party. Partly due to its tripartite alliance with the South African Communist Party (SACP) and the Congress of South African Trade Unions, it had retained a comfortable electoral majority at the national level and in most provinces. It has provided each of South Africa's five presidents since 1994. South Africa is considered a dominant party state. However, the ANC's electoral majority has declined consistently since 2004, and in the 2021 local elections, its share of the national vote dropped below 50% for the first time ever. Over the last decade, the party has been embroiled in a number of controversies, particularly relating to widespread allegations of political corruption among its members. Following the 2024 general election, the ANC lost its majority in parliament for the first time in South Africa's democratic history. It still remains the largest party, however, with under 41% of the vote. The party also lost its majority in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, and Northern Cape. Despite these setbacks, the ANC retained power at the national level through a grand coalition referred to as the Government of National Unity, including parties which together have 72% of the seats in parliament. Today is death anniversary of Mr. Marco Polo, 15 September 1254 to 8 January 1324. Marco Polo was a Venetian merchant, explorer, and writer who traveled through Asia along the Silk Road between 1271 and 1295. His travels are recorded in the Travels of Marco Polo, also known as Book of the Marvels of the World, and 2 million C 1300, a book that described the mysterious culture and inner workings of the Eastern world, including the wealth and great size of the Mongol Empire and China under the Yuan dynasty, giving Europeans their first comprehensive look into China, Persia, India, Japan, and other Asian societies. Born in Venice, Marco learned the mercantile trade from his father and his uncle Niccolo and Maffeo, who traveled through Asia and met Kublai Khan. In 1269, they returned to Venice to meet Marco for the first time. The three of them embarked on an epic journey to Asia, exploring many places along the Silk Road until they reached Cathay. They were received by the royal court of Kublai Khan, who was impressed by Marco's intelligence and humility. Marco was appointed to serve as Kublai's foreign emissary, and he was sent on many diplomatic missions throughout the empire and Southeast Asia, visiting present-day Burma, India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. As part of this appointment, Marco also traveled extensively inside China, living in the emperor's lands for 17 years and seeing many things previously unknown to Europeans. Around 1291, the Polos offered to accompany the Mongol princess Kokochin to Persia. They arrived there around 1293. After leaving the princess, they traveled overland to Constantinople and then to Venice, returning home after 24 years. At this time, Venice was at war with Genoa. Marco joined the war effort on behalf of Venice and was captured by the Genoans. While imprisoned, he dictated stories of his travels to Rusticello da Pisa, a cellmate. He was released in 1299, became a wealthy merchant, married, and had three children. He died in 1324 and was buried in the church of San Lorenzo in Venice. Though he was not the first European to reach China, Marco Polo was the first to leave a detailed chronicle of his experience. His account provided the Europeans with a clear picture of the East's geography and ethnic customs, and it included the first Western record of porcelain, gunpowder, paper money, and some Asian plants and exotic animals. His narrative inspired Christopher Columbus and many other travelers. There is substantial literature based on Polo's writings. He also influenced European cartography, leading to the introduction of the Catalan Atlas, and the Fra Moro map. Today is death anniversary of Mr. Galileo Galilei, 15 February 1564 to 8th January 1642. Galileo di Vincenzo Buonaiuti di Galilei, commonly referred to as Galileo Galilei or mononymously as Galileo, was a Florentine astronomer, physicist, and engineer, sometimes described as a polymath. He was born in the city of Pisa, then part of the Duchy of Florence. Galileo has been called the father of observational astronomy, modern era classical physics, the scientific method, and modern science. Galileo studied speed and velocity, gravity and free fall, the principle of relativity, inertia, projectile motion, and also worked in applied science and technology, describing the properties of the pendulum and hydrostatic balances. He was one of the earliest Renaissance developers of the thermoscope and the inventor of various military compasses. With an improved telescope he observed the stars of the Milky Way, the phase of Venus, the four largest satellites of Jupiter, Saturn's rings, lunar craters, and sunspots. He also built an early microscope. Galileo's championing of Copernican heliocentrism was met with opposition from within the Catholic Church and from some astronomers. The matter was investigated by the Roman Inquisition in 1615, which concluded that his opinions contradicted accepted biblical interpretations. Galileo later defended his views in dialogue concerning the two chief world systems, 1632, which appeared to attack and ridicule Pope Urban VIII, thus alienating both the Pope and the Jesuits, who had both strongly supported Galileo up until this point. He was tried by the Inquisition, found vehemently suspect of heresy, and forced to recant. He spent the rest of his life under house arrest. During this time, he wrote two new sciences, 1638, primarily concerning kinematics and the strength of materials. Today is death anniversary of Mr. Keshav Chandra Sen, 19th November 1838 to 8th January 1884. Keshav Chandra Sen was an Indian philosopher and social reformer who attempted to incorporate Christian theology within the framework of Hindu thought. Born a Hindu in the Bengal Presidency of British India, he became a member of the Brahmo Samaj in 1857 but established his own breakaway Bharatvarsho Brahmo Samaj in 1866 while the Brahmo Samaj remained under the leadership of Devendranath Tagore, who headed the Brahmo Samaj till his death in 1905. In 1878, his followers abandoned him after the underage child marriage of his daughter, which exposed his campaign against child marriage as hollow. Today is birth anniversary of Miss Mary Evans Oadia, Fearless Nadia, 8th January 1908 to 9th January 1996. Mary Ann Evans, also known by her stage name Fearless Nadia, was an Australian Indian actress and stuntwoman who worked in Indian cinema. She is most remembered as the masked, cloaked adventurer in Hunter Wali, released in 1935, which was one of the earliest female-led Indian films. Today is birth anniversary of Miss Asapurna Devi, 8th January 1909 to 13th July 1995. Asapurna Devi, also Asapurna Devi or Asapurna Devi, was a prominent Indian novelist and poet in Bengali. In 1976, she was awarded the Gyanpith Award and Padma Shri by the Government of India, delayed by the Universities of Jabalpur, Rabindra Bharati, Bardwan and Jadavpur. Vishwabharati University honored her with Desikottam in 1989 for her contribution as a novelist and short story writer. The Sahitya Academy conferred its highest honor, the Sahitya Academy Fellowship, in 1994. Today is birth anniversary of Mr. Stephen Hawking, 8th January 1942 to 14th March 2018. Stephen William Hawking was an English theoretical physicist, cosmologist, and author who was director of research at the Centre for Theoretical Cosmology at the University of Cambridge. Between 1979 and 2009, He was the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge, widely viewed as one of the most prestigious academic posts in the world. Hawking was born in Oxford into a family of physicians. In October 1959, at the age of 17, he began his university education at University College, Oxford, where he received a first-class BA degree in physics. In October 1962, he began his graduate work at Trinity Hall, Cambridge, where in March 1966 he obtained his PhD degree in applied mathematics and theoretical physics, specializing in general relativity and cosmology. In 1963, at age 21, Hawking was diagnosed with an early onset, slow progressing form of motor neuron disease that gradually, over decades, paralyzed him. After the loss of his speech, he communicated through a speech generating device, initially through using a handheld switch and eventually by using a single cheek muscle. Hawking's scientific works included a collaboration with Roger Penrose on gravitational singularity theorems in the framework of general relativity and the theoretical prediction that black holes emit radiation, often called Hawking radiation. Initially, Hawking radiation was controversial. By the late 1970s, and following the publication of further research, the discovery was widely accepted as a major breakthrough in theoretical physics. Hawking was the first to set out a theory of cosmology explained by a union of the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. Hawking was a vigorous supporter of the many worlds interpretations of quantum mechanics. He also introduced the notion of a micro black hole. Hawking achieved commercial success with several works of popular science in which he discussed his theories and cosmology in general. His book, A Brief History of Time, appeared on the Sunday Times bestseller list for a record-breaking 237 weeks. Hawking was a Fellow of the Royal Society, a lifetime member of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, and a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the United States. In 2002, Hawking was ranked number 25 in the BBC's poll of the 100 greatest Britons. He died in 2018 at the age of 76, having lived more than 50 years following his diagnosis of motor neuron disease. Today is birth anniversary of Mr. David Bowie, 8th January 1947 to 10th January 2016. David Robert Jones, known professionally as David Bowie, was an English singer, songwriter, musician, and actor, regarded as one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century. Bowie was acclaimed by critics and musicians, particularly for his innovative work during the 1970s. His career was marked by reinvention and visual presentation, and his music and stagecraft has had a significant impact on popular music. Bowie developed an interest in music from an early age. He studied art, music, and design before embarking on a professional career as a musician in 1963. He released a string of unsuccessful singles with local bands and a self-titled solo album 1967 before achieving his first top 5 entry on the UK singles chart with Space Oddity 1969. After a period of experimentation, he re-emerged in 1972 during the glam rock era with the flamboyant and androgynous alter ego Ziggy Stardust. The character was spearheaded by success of Starman and its album The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars, both 1972, which won him widespread popularity. In 1975, Bowie's style shifted towards a sound he characterized as plastic soul, initially alienating many of his UK fans, but garnering his first major US crossover success with the number one single Frame and the album Young Americans, both 1975. In 1976, Bowie starred in the cult film The Man Who Fell to Earth and released Station to Station. In 1977, he again changed direction with the electronic infected album Low, the first of three collaborations with Brian Eno that came to be known as the Berlin Trilogy. Heroes 1977 and Lodger 1979 followed. Each album reached the UK top 5 and received lasting critical praise. After uneven commercial success in the late 1970s, Bowie had three number 1 hits. The 1980 single Ashes to Ashes, its albums Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, and Under Pressure, a 1981 collaboration with Queen. He achieved his greatest commercial success in the 1980s with the Let's Dance 1983. Between 1988 and 1992, he fronted the hard rock band Tin Machine before resuming his solo career in 1993. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Bowie continued to experiment with musical styles, including industrial and jungle. He also continued acting. His roles included Major Jack Celiars in Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence 1983, Jared the Goblin King in Labyrinth 1986, Philip Jeffries in Twin Peaks, Firewalk with Me 1992, Andy Warhol in the biopic Basquiat 1996, and Nikola Tesla in The Prestige 2006, among other film and television appearances and cameos. He ceased touring after 2004 and his last live performance was at a charity event in 2006. He returned from a decade-long recording hiatus in 2013 with The Next Day and remained musically active until his death from liver cancer in 2016. He died 2 days after both his 69th birthday and the release of his final album, Black Star. During his lifetime, his record sales, estimated at over 100 million worldwide, made him one of the best-selling musicians of all time. He is the recipient of numerous accolades, including 6 Grammy Awards and 4 Brit Awards, often dubbed the chameleon of rock due to his constant musical reinventions. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. Rolling Stone ranked him among the greatest singers, songwriters, and artists of all time. As of 2022, Bowie was the best-selling vinyl artist of the 21st century. Today is birth anniversary of Miss Emily Green Bulge, 8th January 1867 to 9th January 1961. Emily Green Bulge was an American economist, sociologist, and pacifist. Bulge combined an academic career at Wesley College with a long-standing interest in social issues such as poverty, child labor, and immigration, as well as settlement work to uplift poor immigrants and reduce juvenile delinquency. She moved into the peace movement at the start of World War I in 1914 and began collaborating with Jane Addams of Chicago. She became a central leader of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom (WILPF), based in Switzerland, for which she won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1946. Today is birth anniversary of Mr. Wilder Wilhelm George Bothe, 8th January 1891 to 8th February 1957. Wilder Wilhelm George Bothe was a German nuclear physicist known for the development of coincidence methods to study particle physics. He served in the military during World War I from 1914 and he was a prisoner of war of the Russians. Returning to Germany in 1920, upon his return to the laboratory, he developed and applied coincidence circuits to the study of nuclear reactions such as the Compton effect, cosmic rays, and the wave particle duality of radiation, for which he would receive his share of the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1954. In 1930, he became a full professor and director of the physics department at the University of Gießen. In 1932, he became director of the Physical and Radiological Institute at the University of Heidelberg. He was driven out of this position by elements of the Deutsche Psychic movement. To preclude his emigration from Germany, he was appointed director of the Physics Institute of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Medical Research (KWIMF) in Heidelberg. There he built the first operational cyclotron in Germany. Furthermore, he became a principal in the German nuclear energy project, also known as the Uranium Club, which was started in 1939 under the supervision of the Army Ordnance Office. In 1946, in addition to his directorship of the Physics Institute at the KWIMF, he was reinstated as a professor at the University of Heidelberg. From 1956 to 1957, he was a member of the Nuclear Physics Working Group in Germany. In the year after Bothe's death, his physics institute at the KWIMF was elevated to the status of a new institute under the Max Planck Society, and it then became the Max Planck Institute for Nuclear Physics. Main building was later named Bothe Laboratory. Thank you very much for your patience.